Welcome to Totally Clutch, the Clutch Businesses podcast and vlog. I'm Angie Beeman with Clutch Businesses, and today we're going to be talking about how to be a strong leader with Francine Lasky, who is the CEO and founder of Francine Lasky Enterprises and is also the chair of the Chicago chapter of Vistage Worldwide. She is a leader, she is a motivator, she's a strategist, and she's a listener. In fact, I found a quote of hers that said that her superpower isn't always having the perfect answers, but it is asking the important questions. So today we're going to flip the table around and hear what she has to say about how she elevates the companies, the communities, and the families of the leaders that she works with. So welcome to the show, Francine.
Hi, thanks so much, Angie. Nice to be with you.
Yeah, thanks. Do you want to give us a bit of background about yourself and what you do?
Sure, absolutely. I am a lifelong learner, always been curious. I like to say I'm a liberal arts learner. I like critical thinking, communication, problem solving, and creativity in all sorts of things. I was a CEO of a medical device business for quite a few years, worked my way up in that business. It was a family business. And so in 2010, I lost my mom. I had been there probably 15 years at that point in time, and lost my mom, who did a lot of the business aspects of the business. And so here I was kind of thrust into a leadership position that I'm not sure I was exactly ready for. So in 2011, I found Vistage, which was a peer group that could give me a lot of outside input, because sometimes, especially in a family business, you don't want input from the guy who signed your third grade report card, right? You want something that's going to be a little bit different and get some outside perspectives. So loved Vistage. And when I sold my business, decided I wanted to pay it forward, to pay back the people who had helped me get where I wanted to go, and thus start my own Vistage group. So
That's
I can
awesome.
It's great to have those groups of people who help each other.
Totally. And I love that. I love that you recognize that you weren't really in a spot to be in the position that you were. And rather than just accept that and continue on and kind of fake it till you make it, you gathered a community of support around you. And that's incredible.
It's so validating to people when they see that they're not alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it's not, you don't have to fake it until you make it. There's
Right.
ways, and that's not my comfort zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like it better where I can know what I'm doing and learn about new things.
Yeah, and I think that's probably really important to the members of Vistage that you're working with to know that, because you probably create, coming from that background or that experience, you probably create an environment where they can say, they can experience, they can do anything, all in the effort to really grow their business and their message.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. So I'm curious, you say that we're strongest when we're vulnerable and we're accountable for change. And I'm curious what that looks like, what vulnerability and accountability for change looks like.
It's a great question, and something I certainly did not, I didn't know what vulnerability had anything to do with leadership when I first started my journey. But often as leaders, we think we're leading with strength when we're really leading from insecurity and shame. We're the strongest, we have the most solid opinions, we have to know what we're doing. And really, we're leading from a place of fear. Right? We believe we need to be everything to everybody. Everybody needs to come to us. If you're sitting in that corner office, you need to know everything. When really the fact is that time and resources are always scarce. Nobody has unlimited resource. You can't know everything. We project certainty, right? I believed that I needed to know everything when we really feel fear and anxiety. And then we ask others to be accountable. How come they're not doing their job? When honestly, we're not doing our job, right? Mm-hmm. If we would have hired the right people, communicated correctly, and made our expectations clear, then if we did that, then we wouldn't worry about accountability. We're not holding ourselves accountable. Mm-hmm. So that's what it looks like. It may look like you are the leader when really you need to look like you're more vulnerable and you can be a much more authentic leader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are the outcomes? What different outcomes do people see when they're coming from that place of vulnerability and taking accountability for change?
I think one of the biggest things that people see is life is less chance and more, I did it, right? More intention.
Mm-hmm.
I intended to get from here to here, and I did
Mm-hmm.
it, rather than stuff happened to me. Like the wind is blowing and your business just goes whichever way it is. When you start with vulnerability, you start with accountability. When you make a plan from A to B, sure, maybe there's ways that you're going to go off, but you intended for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You get more stuff done. Better stuff
Yeah.
happens to you because you've set the arena to make it a better world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I imagine that your expectations are, or you're not leading from a place of expectation. So it might not look exactly like you think, but like you said, you're getting from the point that you were coming from, and you're moving from the point that you're coming from to the point that you intended. So
I think you're right. Expectations is a huge aspect of this. Are your expectations in line with what you can do?
mm-hmm.
Or is it something that's just outside of it, or are you not setting your expectations far enough?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is something that I resonate so strongly with. And it's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to start my own business is it was getting really difficult for me to continue working for people that couldn't embrace that vulnerability and take accountability and accountability for their own actions and what that means for the rest of the team that they're leading, right? It just became too hard to do my job and to be really committed to the work.
Yeah, Angie, there's a lot of people out there who are working for people whose leadership skills need help. And there's got to be both what you're doing, which is kind of breaking out on your own, but there's ways you can be a leader within your own team, right? If you're
Absolutely.
leading people, you can still be really effective, and you can lead up as well as leading down, right? You can lead your leader to be a better leader by example, by knowledge, and then you can make your own decision. And again, intention. You can intend that this is going to be rather than I suffer with a bad boss. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So how did you realize that those were some really important things that for people to hold on to?
I saw it in me, but more importantly, I saw it in members, right? I saw so many members come to their first Vistage meeting, colleagues of mine come with, I'll call it a chip on their shoulder. I'll call it a certainty. Some may call it ego. And slowly over time, they saw by example of other people in the group how they could become more, and how it doesn't make them less to be vulnerable. It makes them more. It's counterintuitive. You have to be weak in order to be strong, right? That just doesn't make sense until you live it. And you say, when you show up to a meeting and you say, I don't know, help me.
Right.
That is one of the best things you can do for your people. And that it just takes experience to do it.
Have you seen, are the people that are willing to do that usually older, or have they been in business longer?
It varies. It really does vary. I've seen young people, I've seen older people, I've seen women, I've seen men, I've seen minorities, I've seen, you name it. I think it's how you think of yourself, right? Carol Dweck, if you've ever been familiar with the growth mindset, highly recommend it. It's about people who think they're not stuck. People who think they can grow out of and become anything that they want to be. Now, I'm never going to be a Major League Baseball player. Like, that is not ever going to happen, especially if you've ever seen me play baseball. But regardless, I do believe that I can make a difference in people's lives. I believe that I have the ability in order to learn whatever I need to learn in order to do that. So that's what I think makes the difference. And it doesn't matter shape, size, color, doesn't really matter. It's if you have that ability to think that way, then you can achieve it. You just have to put yourself in the right environment.
Sure. Okay, cool. So you help, your work, whether it's with Vistage or in your company, is based on helping people become better leaders and helping companies reach their strategic goals. And so I'm curious, what trends do you see that allow women to advance in their businesses?
Sure. I think women are in an amazing place right now, and it's precarious. There's goods and there's bads, right? Women, I think, it used to be a command and control, right? Command and control was the model for leadership. It's not like that anymore. Empathy is the model for leadership now. Women are naturally socialized in order to have that empathy. They're socialized to say it's okay to say you don't know everything. It's okay to do all of that. Now, sometimes that works against them, but in a lot of situations as leaders, those are the emotions, those are the feelings that are prized right now, that allow you to bring in, especially young people, into your organization. Because if you decide, I'm the guy, I know what I'm going to do, this is it, just do it, that's not going to work as well with millennials, with other younger people. You have to be able to kind of take them into account. And women have a great ability to do that because we've been socialized to do it for our whole lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think that that being a valuable asset right now, do you think that that's been coming, or do you think that that's as a result of people working from home and, dealing with kids that are doing distance learning and all of the other things that come up from officing inside the, your central station, I guess, where everything is happening in your life?
Yeah, no, I actually think I've been reading a lot of research that talks about it's hurting women, because right now what's happening is they're being torn in so many directions and they are not paying attention to themselves. There's not a woman that I talk to, that I coach, that has not said they're exhausted. Right? It is exhausting in this particular time, because we are being called on to be everything at work and everything at home. You are teacher, you are business leader, you are colleague, you are mother, you are spouse. This is a high time of stress. And women tend to take that stress completely on themselves without enriching themselves, right? Without giving back to themselves. And that is something that I see a lot of. And I talk to a lot of women who are like, I'm last. You know what? It's the same thing as on an airline. You've probably heard this analogy before. You have to put on your oxygen mask first before you help the person next to you. And women do not do that enough. We are not conditioned to do that. And it is the woman who does do that, who puts her needs, right, maybe ahead of others in order so that she can help, that is really going to get through this and get their business through this. And that's whether you're at the top or you're in the middle or you're at the bottom. You got to make sure you're okay first and allow yourself to do that before you can help others.
Okay. And then is there, I guess, is that willingness to be vulnerable, that willingness to connect, or that ability to connect, is that, I guess, so they're going to have to pull back a little bit from their businesses as a result of everything that they're taking on, especially if they want to make time for themselves. And I guess I'm curious, how do they use that skill set of theirs to really elevate their businesses right now, or their businesses or their companies, I guess?
Absolutely. When you're being bombarded by 15 different needs, you need to prioritize, right? What's the most important thing you can do right now? Sometimes you yourself are not in a position to be able to determine what's the most important thing. You're being bombarded. All of it seems important. One of the things that Vistage groups do is it allows you to bring your issues to a group. Now, these are your peers, people who face the same issues that you do at the same levels, right? They understand necessarily the balance of family, of business, of employees, of community. All of those things are important. So it's kind of like having 15 voices in your head, right, that allow you to sort through it and ask you the right questions. Sometimes you can do that with your advisors, your friends, but everybody there has an agenda, right? If you ask your lawyer, if you ask your employees, if you ask your spouse, right, they all have their own interests. A Vistage group, which is one of the things I love and that it absolutely did for me, allows you to have an agenda-free group. Their only concern is your success, what you say you want. And if I say, I want to spend more time with my kids, then basically what they're going to do, they're business owners. They're going to go, what are you going to give up? And how much are you going to pay? Right? Those are the two options you've got. And then they're going to help you be outside your own mind to get you to that point. It's all about that intention and the accountability of saying, Francine, you said you wanted to be home. Why are you at the office on Saturday? Or on the Zoom call on Saturday, whatever it is now.
Right. Yeah, that's really helpful. And again, I think it ties into that idea of you're not alone. You don't have to figure it out all on your own, and you're not the only one dealing with it. And it's good to have some people that have your back.
I couldn't agree more. And you can say, oh, I'll be intentional. Oh, I'll keep myself accountable. Guess what? That just doesn't work,
No.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, only in extreme cases can you do that. If that was true, everybody, there wouldn't be a Weight Watchers. There wouldn't be an Alcoholics Anonymous. There wouldn't be. I mean, people tend to not take care of themselves as best as they can. Why not let other people help you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so cool. I think it's an amazing group, an amazing asset for a business owner for sure.
It is.
Okay, so with that in mind, I guess, what is the coolest transition that you've seen with a new Vistage member coming in and going, spending some time with you?
It's a story that I heard that I think is amazing, and I happen to know the woman who's involved. And she started out as a really smaller business in Vistage than most, right? Most people have to be at a certain level in order to invest in themselves, right? She started out as a smaller business. And one of the exercises we do in Vistage is you do a business presentation. For the whole group, you give them kind of a deep dive into your business so that way they can help you as much as possible. This woman did her deep dive. She finished her presentation. She closed her PowerPoint. And the Vistage chair said, okay, everybody else in the room, the other 15 people that were sitting at the table, how would you put her out of business?
Oh.
Can you imagine what that must have felt like for her? Right? Like they're like, oh my God, here's 14 people who are now going to give me every flaw, how can they be out of business? But then she sat back and she went, oh my God, this is the most valuable thing I've ever heard, right? Because here are 15 people telling me where the holes I need to fill. Mm-hmm. And these people determined that her employees, she was it was a creative business. Her employees were her most important asset, and people could steal her employees without any problems. So she came to the conclusion culture was the most important thing she needed to do. More important than the technology she invested in, more important, there's limited resources, there's limited time, there's limited resources. How are you going to focus? How are you going to be intentional? She intentionally made her culture be the thing that was stellar, right? People would flock to work for her. She's now listed, and she continues to be listed as one of the top 50 places to work in Chicago, right?
Oh, that's cool.
She wasn't even on there before. And it's a huge success story in terms of how Vistage, we call it Vistage validation, right? How a moment in Vistage saves your business, saves your family, right? Saves anything. And she's the best example I've ever heard. There's a million others that are a little bit smaller, but that one is kind of the biggest, most splashy one that I know.
Yeah. I think it's so awesome. And I think it highlights so many different things that are important when you're an entrepreneur. I mean, her mindset was awesome to take that, and instead of thinking of standing in front of a firing squad, she was like, awesome, this is such a great opportunity. That's a huge, we put so much into our businesses that it's hard not to take things personally sometimes. And so if you can find that mindset of like, wow, this is such an opportunity for growth, like that, I think that right there is priceless. And then, the fact that she took action on it is so cool.
Yeah. And it's exactly what you were saying before. Vulnerability, that vulnerability is strength, right? Mm-hmm. That's a sign of vulnerability, to stand up. And you're right. Business owners get in their own ways because they take it personally. Of course, it's their baby, right? Like you can't say your baby is ugly. Like that just doesn't work. Right? You have to be able to go out there and say, in order to make your business stronger, here's what you need to do.
Yeah, that's great. Cool. Francine, we're up against the clock now, but I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And I think the insight that you shared is so incredible. And I want to make sure that people know where they can find you. So, what I've got, and I think we can put it up on the screen, is people can find you by visiting your website, francinelasky.com. And they can reach out to you about your business, Francine Lasky Enterprises, but also about if they're interested in becoming a Vistage member or finding out more about the Vistage Worldwide organization. Is there anywhere else we should send them?
Please link in with me. So look me up on LinkedIn. I've been doing a series of videos thanks to a lot of good training that I've gotten. Nice. Called Focusing with Francine. I do pretty much the same thing, talking with business leaders. What are they focusing on their business? And so I interview business leaders from all over the country that I've met that help people go, what am I focusing on right now?
Yeah, cool. That sounds
Great.
great.
Thank you so much for your great question.
Yeah, thank you, Francine. This was so great.